I used to believe my parents when they said they were protecting me. My name is Ella, and for most of my life, I lived inside a house that felt more like a padded room than a home. Every sharp edge was covered. Every dream I had was quietly deflated. They said I was too sensitive, too anxious, too physically frail. My back pain? Just another reason to keep me inside. My quiet nature? Proof I couldn't handle the world. When I asked to go to prom, my mother smiled sadly and said, "We just don't. Want you to embarrass yourself, sweetheart." Then the dress we'd picked out together disappeared from the closet. "Returned," she said. For my own good, and when I got my first college acceptance letter from a university 2 states away, I never even saw it. I found the envelope months later, opened, tucked under the pile of junk mail in the garage. My father had scrawled, "Not safe for Ella," across the top in red pen. They weren't cruel. Not in the way people think of cruelty. They never yelled, never hit. They just decided for me. Quietly, consistently, and always with that same soft tone of condescension. "Some girls are meant to be protected," Mom would say, brushing my hair with a hand that never stopped trembling. "You'd fall apart out there. We're doing this because we love you." But it didn't feel like love. It felt like a cage with wallpaper. I didn't know it then, but they weren't protecting me from the world. They were protecting the world from me. I wasn't trying to snoop. I just wanted to print out a resume. Dad always kept the old desktop in the sunroom, password protected, of course, but that day, for once, it was left open. A spreadsheet blinked on the screen. I didn't understand. Most of it, just rows of numbers, facility maintenance fees, Medicare invoices, loan interest. Then I saw my name. Ella Monroe borrower, joint cosigner, Richard Monroe. There it was. A $72,000 loan, taken out against my name, for facility expansion. And the final note beside it, underlined in bold red, client unaware, family controlled, risk minimal. I couldn't breathe. When I confronted them, they didn't even deny it. Dad didn't flinch, just said, "You wouldn't have known what to do with that money, Ella. It's safer this way. For you," Mom added gently, "you'll never have to worry about anything. We're taking care of your future." They spoke about me like I was a pet they couldn't leave alone in the house too long, as if my body, my mind, my name were theirs to manage. That night, I sat in my room staring at the ceiling. I wasn't crying, I wasn't yelling, but I was breaking, quietly, fully. For the first time, I realized I wasn't being loved. I was being owned, and I didn't want to live like someone's liability anymore. I thought about running. I really did. I stared at the Greyhound schedule on my cracked phone screen for almost an hour. The next bus out of town left at 4:10 a.m. No ID check, just cash. But then I heard my mother's footsteps in the hallway. Soft, predictable. She paused outside my door like she always did and said through the crack, "We're ordering from Granger's tonight." "Your favorite, right? The soup with the soft noodles." That's what got me. Not the manipulation, not the lies, not even the loan. The soup, that tiny, suffocating reminder that no matter what they stole from me, my choices, my money, my future, they'd still wrap it in a warm bowl and call it love. I closed the bus schedule. Powered the phone off. Maybe they were right. Maybe I really wasn't strong enough. I pulled the covers over my head like a child and whispered the lie I'd been taught to swallow. At least they care. But deep down, something else stirred. Small, quiet, but alive. And that something wasn't afraid anymore. Her name was June, retired nurse, lived 2 houses down, wore lavender cardigans, and always smelled like chamomile tea. I used to think of her as the nice lady with the broken porch swing. I never expected her to save my life. It started with a book. I was walking home from a volunteer shift at the nursing home, my parents' idea, of course, to build structure. June saw me dragging my feet and called out, "Wait, sweetheart, you dropped something." It was a paperback copy of The Giver. I hadn't, but I let her believe it. The next day, she brought out a stack of GED prep books and a mug of peppermint cocoa. "I know that look," she said. "That quiet scream behind your eyes. I had it. Once, too." We started meeting once a week. Just reading at first, then writing, then math. She never pried, never asked about my parents. But she always left the porch light on, just in case I came early. June taught me things no one else ever did. How to calculate student loan interest. How to speak with your shoulders even when your voice shakes. How to write my full name without apologizing for it. And when I passed my GED exam, she didn't cry. She just handed me an envelope. Inside was $7,600 in cash and a note for the bus ride and whatever comes after. That was the first time I realized I wasn't broken. I was just unfinished. I left before sunrise. No dramatic confrontation, no shouting match, no handwritten letter folded on the kitchen table, just a duffel bag, June's envelope tucked deep in the lining, and a one-way bus ticket to Chicago. I still remember the sound. My shoes made on the gravel as I walked down the driveway. Not a single light on in the house, not even the porch. Not this time. I didn't cry. I thought I would. But when the town faded behind me, all I felt was stillness. Like I'd finally stopped treading water. I used a fake last name when I applied for the receptionist job at a low-income elder care facility. Ella Stone. It sounded solid, heavy, like something that couldn't be pushed around. My first paycheck was $217. It barely covered rent in the basement apartment I found, but it was mine. Every hour I worked, every bedpan I changed, every nurse I shadowed. It built something in me. Strength, maybe. Or maybe just defiance. I spent nights studying while the radiators hissed and the city outside screamed itself to sleep. Quietly learning. Quietly growing. No one knew me here. No one told me what I could or couldn't do, and for the first time in my life, that wasn't terrifying. It was freedom. The first year nearly broke me. The hours were brutal. I worked the night shift at St. Clair's. Care home, 12 beds, 2 nurses, 1 ancient coffee maker that rattled like a dying engine. I mopped floors, cleaned wounds, memorized medication schedules like scripture. And every night before bed, I studied state elder care regulations under the flickering kitchen light. No one knew my name. I liked it that way. The nurses started trusting me. One of them, Karina, let me borrow her textbooks. She said I had quiet grit. That stuck with me. Quiet grit. I earned certifications one by one. Patient support, then case coordination, then residential operations. I started getting interview calls from better facilities, but I said no, because I was watching something. My parents' nursing home, the one they said I'd never be strong enough to help run, was failing. I saw the signs in industry newsletters, operating losses, unpaid vendor contracts, staff resignations, and then came the tip. A former staff member from their facility, Miguel, recognized me at a conference, pulled me aside. "You're Ella, aren't you? From Monroe Care?" I froze. He lowered his voice. "They used your social security number. For the SBA loans during COVID. You didn't know?" "No, I didn't." He handed me a manila envelope. Inside, printouts, loan filings, account transfers, my name listed as guarantor. They were still using me. Even after I disappeared, I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Instead, I walked outside, sat on a park bench, and just breathed. They hadn't changed, but I had. That night, I opened a new browser window, created a new folder on my desktop, named it in all caps, Return Strategy, because I wasn't going to expose them with anger. I was going to beat them with silence, strategy, and receipts. I didn't want revenge, not the kind with shouting or courtroom scenes or viral exposés. I wanted something quieter, sharper, slower. I wanted control. So I got to work. I changed my name legally. Ella Monroe no longer existed. On paper, I became Ella Stone, founder of Stone and Vine Living, a small but rising care management consultancy. I partnered with 2 other women-led firms to form an acquisition trust. We began scouting struggling nursing homes, ones bleeding money but still valuable. In real estate terms, ones like my parents. Their facility had a new name now, Silver Pines Manor. It looked fancier, shinier. But the numbers didn't lie. Their debts were stacked like dominoes. The state had flagged 3 billing irregularities. A class action lawsuit loomed. And the bank? Getting nervous. Perfect timing. I dressed deliberately the morning we finalized the deal. Gray suit. No jewelry. Hair tied back so tight it looked severe. The kind of look that said, I don't need to raise my voice to make you listen. In my bag, a printed binder with every document they'd forged, every lie they'd built into the system. I didn't need to use them, yet, but they were coming with me. That night I practiced what I'd say. Not in front of a mirror, in front of a blank wall. Because that's what they used to see when they looked at me. A wall. A waste. A delicate thing meant to sit and smile. Not anymore. Now I was walking into the room, and this time, I was holding the keys. Part 8. Ordeal. 500 words. The boardroom smelled like old coffee and desperation. 12 chairs. One long table, a projection screen buzzing faintly in the corner. The bank had arranged the meeting, final negotiations before Silver Pines Manor either restructured or collapsed. My parents sat at the head of the table. Dad wore his usual navy blazer, though the cuffs were frayed. Mom had on pearls I remembered from my childhood, fidgeting with them like prayer beads. They didn't recognize me at first. I sat near the far end, flanked by my legal counsel and a silent man named Harris, representing the Acquisition Trust. I kept my face neutral, watchful. The presentation began. Charts, losses, proposed cuts. Dad spoke with that same fake poise he always used when charming investors. The facility is still viable. We just need another 6 months of bridge financing. Then came the vote. The bank officer turned to Harris and asked, "And what does Stone and Vine Living recommend?" Harris didn't answer. I did. We recommend acquisition, full purchase, immediate transfer of operational control. The room turned. Mom squinted. I'm sorry. Who are you? I stood up slowly, placed the printed binder on the table, and flipped it open to the cover page. Ella Stone, I said, managing partner, majority debt holder, and your daughter. Silence. Dad's face drained to gray. He looked at the binder, then at me. You're just here to humiliate us. I smiled, but only with my eyes. No, I'm here to clean up your mess. I clicked the remote. The screen behind me lit up, not with charts, but with a video I'd stitched together the night before. Footage from my years of work. Changing bedpans at midnight. Studying in my basement apartment. Accepting my license from the State Health Board, overlaid with audio clips I'd saved from a hidden recorder. She's too fragile. She'll never survive on her own. She should be grateful we didn't institutionalize her. The room stayed silent. Not out of politeness. Out of paralysis. I let the video run to the end, then shut it off with a single click. Effective today, I said, Stone and Vine owns 87% of Silver Pines Manor's operational debt. I hold controlling interest. Dad started to speak, something about dignity, about legacy, but I held up a hand. This isn't personal. It's business, and you taught me how to treat people like numbers. No one applauded. No one had to. I had walked into the room they built to keep me small, and I tore it down with poise. I didn't fire them. That would have been too easy, too fast. Instead, I reassigned them. My father, Richard Monroe, was placed on mandatory compliance oversight. 3 reports per week, daily check-ins with staff he used to ignore. His new desk was a folding table in the staff lounge, next to the vending machine that never worked. My mother, Marla, was given a rotational role: meal service on Tuesdays, linen inventory on Thursdays, light custodial support on Sundays. She used to glide through the halls like a queen. Now she buzzed at my office door for cleaning supply approvals. I never raised my voice, never gloated, just signed the orders. Professionally. Neatly. They tried to talk to me, at first. Asked if this was punishment. Dad said, we were doing what we thought was best. You were so delicate. I looked him in the eyes and replied, then this should be a relief. Everything's being handled for you. No one recorded that moment. But I remember the look in his eyes. Not anger, not regret. Recognition. He finally saw me. Not the broken girl he once managed, but the woman who now held the schedule, the signature, authority, the building keys. They used to say I wasn't strong enough to lead. Now they buzzed for permission to mop the floor. Owning the nursing home wasn't the end. It was just the foundation. Could have stopped there. Let my parents live out their days under fluorescent lights and daily reminders of the daughter they dismissed. But I kept seeing the other Ellas, quiet girls pushing wheelchairs, underpaid aides skipping meals, immigrant, nurses writing reports no one reads. I couldn't forget them, so I used the leverage I had. I contacted the state health board. Sent in the documents Miguel had shared, the ones my parents thought they'd buried in old filing cabinets. Fraudulent billing, falsified medication logs, dozens of violations. An investigation opened quietly. Then came the legal notices. Civil penalties, back payments, a federal audit. My name wasn't listed anywhere on the public filings, but I watched from a distance as the empire they built on silence and manipulation began to crumble, and I did something else. I launched a small initiative through Stone and Vine, a scholarship fund for under-recognized female caregivers. We called it June's Light, after the woman who first lit my path. Applications flooded in. One girl wrote in her essay, "I'm not weak. I just need someone to believe I'm not invisible." I pinned her words above my desk, because that's what this whole journey had been about. Not revenge, visibility. I don't flinch when people say my name anymore. I used to brace myself for the questions. Are you that Monroe girl? But now they don't ask with pity. They ask with curiosity, with respect. I spoke at a statewide conference last month, panel on elder care ethics. My name was on the banner, my face on the program. I stood at the podium and looked out at the crowd, and somewhere in the third row were my parents. They didn't try to hide. They just sat there, hands folded, faces pale and unreadable. They looked smaller somehow. When the moderator asked me what shaped my leadership style, I didn't hesitate. Survival. Not in the dramatic sense, in the quiet way. The kind where no one believes you'll make it, so you learn to build a world that doesn't need their belief. Someone clapped, then another, then the whole room. But I didn't smile for the applause. I smiled for the girl who used to sit in a dark bedroom and wonder if her life would ever belong to her. That girl is gone now. In her place is someone else. Someone who knows how to run a company, stand alone, and speak calmly in rooms where her name was once dismissed. I walked off that stage slowly, deliberately, not to prove anything, but to feel every step. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was escaping anything. Had nothing to run from anymore, only forward. Every Friday, just before sunset, I walk the halls of the nursing home. Not because I have to, because I can. The building feels different now. Not just because the paint is fresh or the floors don't squeak anymore, but because it's no longer filled with fear, no longer run by people who see vulnerability as weakness. Sometimes I pass my parents. They don't speak. Not anymore. Not unless it's required. Last week, I saw my mother cleaning fingerprints from the glass entry doors. She didn't look up when I passed, but I stopped. Just for a moment. "Do you need more gloves?" I asked. She shook her head. That was all. No drama. No reconciliation. Just two people in the same hallway, each living with the truth of who they are. I used to think healing would look like forgiveness. It doesn't. It looks like clarity. It sounds like silence that no longer hurts. It feels like waking up every morning and knowing I am no longer waiting for someone else to save me. I lock my office every night with the same key they once kept from me. Walk to my car with no need to look over my shoulder. And as I pull away from the building they thought would be their legacy, I don't feel hatred. I feel freedom. They said I was too weak to survive alone, but I didn't just survive. I came back and bought the house they built, and rewrote every single rule inside it.